And we are joined right now by Jeff Katz, who is an attorney, and he is also a NewsMax contributor, and we're going to talk with him about the situation there. Jeff, welcome, sir.
Thanks very much. Great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. All right, let's talk about, I just saw yesterday or this morning on Haaretz, one of the Israeli newspapers, that the Syrian Assad has warned that he will attack Tel Aviv if Israel does anything else inside of Syria, similar to what they have done recently in the past. Is that something he can deliver on? Is that something Israel needs to be concerned about, or is that just, empty rhetoric?
Well, I think Israel needs to be very concerned on multiple fronts. First of all, Assad, if he feels he's going down, for example, one thing he might do at the end of the day is just throw a Hail Mary pass in the form of any kind of attack on the heartland of Israel, Tel Aviv, other areas, in the Sharon Plain, and, kind of like as a last-ditch effort. That's one thing he might do to try to save himself. As we know, Assad is closely allied with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and Assad is trying to get advanced weaponry to Hezbollah, which acts as a proxy for Iran and for Assad against Israel. That's something Israel, has acted to prevent up to this point, and Israel is monitoring very closely. And aside from all that, Steve, the rebels, the Sunni rebels that are fighting Assad within Syria in its civil war, this is a group which, once they take control, even if there are one-day free and fair elections inside Syria, we've seen what the results of that could be in Gaza, where they elected Hamas.
In Egypt with the Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah.
And now the if we step back for a second, Steve, and look inside Syria, what really is going on there? Syria is a country where the overwhelming majority are Sunni. You have 75% of the population is Sunni, about 10% Christian, and a small minority that includes Alawites and Shiites, Druze, and other minorities. So you've had a situation for the past 50 years where the Assad family, which is from the Alawite sect, very closely aligned with the Shiites.
Right.
And that's the point, because this is really a conflict in the Arab world, in Syria and elsewhere, which really falls along religious fault lines. It's basically the Sunnis versus the Shiites.
Right.
So you've got this axis of Assad, Alawite, a Shiite offshoot, very closely linked with Iran, which is, of course, Shiite, closely linked with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, Shiite again, against kind of a pan-Sunni resistance, which consists of the majority of the Syrian population, which is Sunni, and brings in Muslim Brotherhood from outside of Syria, which were expelled by Bashar Assad's father.
Right.
The situation where you have the Alawites,
just like the Muslim Brotherhood were expelled from Egypt.
Right, exactly
Mubarak,
right.
yeah.
Exactly right. And Hafez al-Assad, Bashar's father, he brutally murdered and tortured and expelled. These Muslim Brotherhood people were bad guys, but it was a power struggle. And Hafez Assad did succeed in virtually annihilating the Muslim Brotherhood within Syria.
Right.
Now, from exile, the Muslim Brotherhood smells an opportunity, and they are tremendously supporting rebel Sunni fighters inside Syria, along with a lot of al-Qaeda links.
I was going to say, there's all kinds of characters and elements in that quote-unquote rebel opposition.
Right. And this is part of Israel's dilemma also. Everybody knows Assad is a bad guy. Yet, for 40 years or so, since the 74 disengagement agreement with Israel, there has been relative calm and basically quiet. Now, Assad has worked through proxies, like we mentioned, but on the Israel-Syrian border, that has been a pretty quiet border for nearly 40 years.
So it's the devil you know against the devil you don't know, which is what they're up against.
That's exactly right.
So how does Israel handle this going forward, especially now? Again, as you mentioned, as I mentioned, with the threat from Assad to attack Tel Aviv if Israel dares to do anything again, but they'd have to if they see that missiles are going to Hezbollah. And as you said, when he's going down for the count, He's got nothing to lose. Let him be. He wants to be remembered as the guy who, destroyed Tel Aviv or whatever. So what is Israel to do?
Right. It's tough, and it's not only Israel's dilemma, right? Because who knows who will take over after Assad goes.
Right.
It's also the same problem the U.S. has. Do we arm these Sunni rebels in Syria? Now, because of their many links with Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, you know that when you hand arms over to these, Sunni rebels, they're immediately going to be used by Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, terrorists to attack U.S. and other Western forces. So it's not like there's a good guy here who we're confident in, who's going to step up. What we really need is a power struggle within the Sunni rebel group in Syria. We need the moderates.
To come
we need
forward,
the moderate Muslims to step up and take control. And if they did that, they would see huge amounts of Western outpouring, Steve, to prop them up and support them and let them try to establish something. It's very difficult. Again, given our experience over the past 10 years, the experience in the West of basically even free and fair elections in these countries, they do not really often yield the results we're looking for. And probably what we need is some kind of constitutional system set up in place with safeguards so that the majority in these countries can't run amok.
Well, good luck with that. Jeff Katz is with us, a NewsMax contributor, attorney. We only have about a minute left. Russia now has sent some of the most sophisticated surface-to-surface missiles to Syria, which they say is not only a game changer, almost an equalizer. So what's Israel and the West to do about that?
Well, Russia has a vested interest. It has an important port at Tartus on the Syrian coast, which is it's a relic from the Soviet era, but it's one important port outside of Russia which they're protecting, and it's not a good outlook for the peace conference that the U.S. and Russia are co-sponsoring for a very simple reason. If you look at the UN General Assembly resolution passed last week, and if you look at any kind of transition to democracy, once you transition to democracy in Syria, it means Assad is out because he's a small minority. But Russia and Iran want to keep Assad in power desperately.
It's going to be not fun to watch, but it's going to be interesting to watch, and hopefully, the good will win out. Whoever good in Syria is, the best that we could hope for and the best that Israel could hope for. Jeff Katz, appreciate you coming by. We'll speak to you again, sir.
Great pleasure. Thanks, Steve.